Hey everyone, this is James from 13th Hour Miniatures. I am doing the inaugural video. A lot of people said that they wanted to see me do a little bit of painting on YouTube, and well, who am I to argue? So I'm going to go ahead and do this nice little miniature here. This is I believe it's called a Watcher from Anvil 8's AETHERIUM. It's their new ResX line. I've already done a little bit of work on it. I did a couple others. So like this. This is what it's supposed to come out to be. Also this. And so I'm going to go through and do a little bit of painting on this one, which I have done little modifications. So it's supposed to be kind of like floating, being all squiddish in the air. I didn't really like that, so I kind of cut off the base, cut off the tentacles. I put a little bit of extra tentacles that was left over on the base. I'm going to paint up so it looks like it's coming out of the AETHERIUM. So the AETHERIUM is actually kind of like a quantum noise. It's a like static in the game, and it's very deadly, and these things swim through it. So I'm using a wet palette. I'm also using as the base, I'm using Russac Tan. Let me actually go ahead and put a little bit over here because it's a little messed up. Like I said, I started doing a little bit of work on this. This one got dropped on the floor. Actually, I wouldn't say dropped. I would say my cat decided that it was evil and needed to be destroyed. So it ended up on the floor. And bat around to much to her pleasure and my chagrin. So, like I said, most of this has got Russac Tan. That's the base coat. I primed it gray to begin with. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of Minoth white base. I use P3s a lot. You don't have to use P3. I actually have a lot of others like Scale 75, a bunch of GW stuff. You'll actually see me doing GW stuff. They've got a lot of good washes. Agrath Urkshade I'll be using, which is pretty much magic in a bottle. Let me go ahead and get a little bit more Minoth white base on my palette. So I did a little bit of research on squids. And by a little bit, I mean I pulled up a Google search and really quickly did a search for squid, and found that the bottoms of the squids are usually very light in color, and the tops usually are either some bright color or they are a reddish brown. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna make this go almost to a white on the belly and across the underbelly portions, like where these tentacles come up. And the rest of it I'm gonna have painted with a reddish brown. I believe it's actually called Bloodstone. Yeah, Bloodstone by P3. So just getting this mix under the bottom. Some of the mixture, the original paint I just put on was still a little bit wet, which helps with the blending. Like I said, this is going to be for tabletop. This is not a training competition. I'd be spending a lot more time if I was doing a competition for this. But really, I just want to get these guys on the table, on technically the board. AETHERIUM uses an interesting board mechanic where you get to move around what they call schemas, basically tiles. And it's been really fun. We got to demo it at Adepticon, and it's been taking off. So I do have what I consider like the first layer. It is a little bit lighter than the Rucksack Tan. I'm going to take a little more Mammoth White base and add it to my wet palette where I have the Rucksack Tan and a little bit of the Mammoth White, so it's now even brighter. And I'm just going to coat the further down on the model. Just so I can get really, really light on the underbelly. And over here. So, if you get a little messy, it doesn't matter. I do want to get, actually this should be the under part, that's the top part, so just put that down here. So I'm going to keep doing this like one more time. So I'm just adding a little bit more Mammoth White base to this mixture. Now it's almost to exactly Mammoth White base. And you can see down here it's just almost straight white, well, yellowish white. I want to get underneath that belly and the top parts of these tentacles. I do want to have a little bit of a shading. So up here is going to be lighter, down towards the bottom of it it'll be a little bit darker. I think that'll be fine. Go ahead and go over here. That tentacle down there. Hit the camera so it rocks back and forth. So now you can see, like I said, this is going to be very quick. Now you can see that there is a definite transition between down here, which is very, very white, to this Rucksack Tan top. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the top part. Like I said, I'm using Bloodstone. It's watered down a lot. Almost the consistency of just a little bit thicker. Well, a little bit thicker than water, a little bit wetter than milk. I'm just going to put some on my brush, and now I'm going to do this in just tapping. Now the reason I'm doing this is because natural forms, like this squid, isn't clean. They're not all nice even lines, or they're not consistent colors across it. So what I'm doing is by tapping it, I am literally throwing the paint randomly around, giving it an organic feel. Now it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Over here, the back end of this. And under here, because technically that is the back end. Do a little bit more. And as you can see, it's getting a very, I want to say, organic feel to it. And the more I put on, I'm just putting it less and less towards the white, so I'm still getting that transition. And the top part is getting darker. Seems weird, but that's the way squids are. Like I said, did a little bit of research. Saw this one that had like a reddish color on top, and was like, that's what I'm going for. just keep tapping over here, and this little tiny one over here should be towards the top. Technically under here, since that is the other side of that tentacle. As I say, I'm not going to do this layer by layer by layer, but I just want to get the top so it's very bright reddish, but you still have that nice neat transition going from this white to this russet tan here to the reddish brown. Alright, so while it's still drying, because it is a little bit wet, I'm going to move on to these pieces right here, these little pipings. Like I said, these are not technically quote unquote squids. These are actually programs in a digital world, so you can make them wherever you want. I'm making mine look organic and a little bit funky. As you notice also, when I paint the black, I'm pushing it away from the model because, just like I did there, I don't want it to get into where that white was. I do want it to just be nice and clean. So while it's still drying, because I did put water on it, I'm trying to push it away from the model. So if I do go a little too far, I can always just hit air and not the actual model itself. Alright, so now we go over here, gonna hit top part, and we'll go to the other side. Now I'm recording this on my iPhone. I had a video camera. It did not last very long. And believe it or not, the resolution was actually crappier than my iPhone. So I'm going to continue doing this. So across the back here, there's more piping. Alright. So now I get the blacks out of the way. Now I'm going to let that dry a little bit more. And this is still drying. It's still a little bit glossy. You can kind of see it on the model where it's still wet. I still want that to dry down a little bit more, so I'm going to move on to the bronze parts, which I am going to start off with molten bronze. I usually start this off when I'm doing like a copper, bronze, any type of, I would say reddish metal. And the reason why is it gives a nice clean color to it that when you wash it down with, which I'm going to do in a minute with Agrath Earthshade, you get a very dark, rich color. And these models do have little tiny metal bits everywhere. So like here, here, get the eye again because I want it to be nice and clean. Back side of this, and I believe I've hit them all. I'm sure that when I start coming back and start doing more painting, I'll find another little bit somewhere in there. They're everywhere. All right, so while that's drying, and I'm closing my paints because I don't want them to spill when I accidentally hit them, and I will. I'm going to go ahead and go to the top part now and finish up this. Now, I'm using a mix of Battlefield Brown and also Thinmore Black. It gives you this oily brown color. I found to be very useful when doing any type of oil marks, dark brown marks, or here, where I'm going to be doing almost like a natural camouflage. Once again, I'm just doing the speckling. And as you can see, it gives you a nice natural camouflage looking color. Just something to break it up. You need little tiny details like this. While it is tabletop, makes it look really good. It's just something to make it stand out just a little bit more. So that's looking good so far. All right, so I'm gonna go on to, let's finish up the piping. So I did black, Thamar black to start off with. I'm gonna move on to just straight coal black, where I'm going to just hit the top edges. I'm going to give them a highlight of like a bluish color. A little further down the sides. Now here, on this piping here, since it goes down this way, when normally I'm highlighting across the top here, and leaving the bottom black, here you can't because the way it's situated, I just can't go down the line here. I've actually got to hit the top parts of it because that's where the light would be coming from, not just hitting the sides. So like here, it's going to hit top here, the bottom's going to be black. Here it's hitting across the top of the ridge. Here you can just literally just run your paintbrush down the front and get that line. Flip it around, do the same thing on this side. Almost like a wet brush technique, just trying to get a differentiation. I'm trying not to just slam my brush in there because I do want the black to show up in the grooves because it is piping. So it has a raised portion and a groove. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry. Now moving on to not Nolan Will. Aether Shade. Now how I'm going to do this is, like I said with these metal pieces before, I don't like them being all nice and bright, so I'm just going to take it and do a healthy slavering of Aether Shade. This is doing two things. One, it's shading around the edges. Two, it is tinting the color of the metal. And I'm being very liberal with this. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to highlight it with actually a different color than the molten bronze, because I want it to really stand out. Okay, a little more here because I want that shade. Now what this also is doing, this shading portion, you're adding small amounts around the outside edge. That blackish brown, that's the Agrath Earthshade, is going to now make a line that's basically going to say, you know, this is metal, this is flesh. This black line here is saying, hey, there's a break in between the two. So once again, let that dry, and now that that's drying, I can add a little bit of my Menoth white base to my coal black to get a bluish gray color. And I'm going to just do another highlight level to try to give it just a little more pop. So I said, I am horrible with contrast. I really want to stop, and when I go, yeah, it looks good, I always go one more step more. Like I said, I'm horrible at contrast. So, and also, I just added a little more white base and adding a little top portion. And I'm just doing smaller areas. Literally, this is almost like a tap. But, so, on a model like this, you're looking at a 24-32 mil model. There's no real true shadows. No real true, I mean, everything kind of blends into each other. So by doing more and more highlights, you're lying to the eye that this is higher than it is. So as you can see there, it now looks like either there's, actually, it looks like there's like some type of like glowing fluid running through it, which is not too bad either. But on the tabletop, it's really going to stand out as there's something there and not just like a black piece of line. All right, so once again, go to the dry, and I'm going to go ahead and do the suckers while that's doing that. What I use for the suckers is white highlight, because I don't like using true white, because really nothing in nature is bright white. It's always some type of yellow white, blue white. It's really saturated. Another color that's really saturated. So using the Menoth highlight, I'm basically keeping in the same yellow as the Menoth base. And I'm just going to put a little bit more brush. And I'm just kind of tapping the sucker portions to make them stand out. Now, a couple of the other models, I'm using green for the tentacles because they're more squiddish. They're more octopus. So I'm using green tentacles with yellow suckers. Once again, looking on Google, but nothing really had yellow for squids. So, but they all had this like this bright white. So I was like, okay, well, I'll stick with white. And it kind of goes with the theme. Just going down the line. Every time I see a sucker, just point it out. Hey, look, it's a sucker. God, my jokes are horrible today. So, that's most of them. Oh, over here. As you can see, I am not really moving my hands, like my paintbrush, around a lot. I have a friend. The way they paint scares me because they don't move their hand very much, or they move their hands a lot. Sorry, and not the model. So they hold the model straight, and they're like poking at it from all sides, and that just freaks me out because I want the model moving and I want my hands pretty much staying in the same place. And I did notice, hey look, right here, there's another pipe I forgot. It's just really small. And easily missed. So I'll come back to that when it's dry too. So, starting to look really good. I could probably drop this on the table now, well, after painting the base, and it'd be ready to go. But I'm not going to. I'm going to do something with the eye. I am doing the method that the Privateer Press came out for their Convergence. I'm starting off with Underbelly Blue, and I'm just painting the eye with that. So just getting a nice coat of this blue. Now, a lot of people are using green. Green glows. I'm not a huge fan of the green glows unless I'm doing something necrotic or, you know, sickly looking. I want this to be sci-fi and very glowy. So I'm going to use blues. I thought about using yellows, but yellows is usually lamplight. And since I also have tons of Kingdom of Death, I'm getting tired of painting lamplight. So I'm now taking a very watered down mystic blue. I think is what they call it. Arcane blue. And it is like this color. It's very, very bright. And it's now a little bit watery. And I'm just doing the same thing I did with the washes. I'm just placing it right in and letting it sink down into the crack between the eye and the outer rim. So now you have this. Now, the great thing is that this portion here is now tinted a little bit, but not painted. And same here, tinted a little bit, not painted. So it's going to give you a color change between where the blue is and the actual center of the eye. All right, and since it's very watery, I'm gonna let it dry down, and I'm going to switch over to the metals. This will look gold. Like I said, these are supposed to be bronze. Why using gold? Because bronze does get shiny. And I'm using it very scarcely on the upper levels of the bronze. So you get that shiny portion. Same thing here. I'm going to kind of just put a little bit on the bottom of the blade and the top of the blade. because the light's going to hit it, and it's almost going to do a break, and across the top, this metal piece here. And apparently there's a kid crying outside now. Yay. And I'm only hitting these spots where the light from the top would hit. It's like down here, I'm just going to hit across the tops. Maybe a little down the side. Because I want there to be a definite break in the light. There, it's like hitting here, and then this is getting darker. Across the top of that blade again. And down the sides. And across the top here. And then this one's going to be a little weird because it's going to be hitting the top. And then I'm just going to kind of carry it down just a little bit. And as you can see on the tabletop, that's really going to stand out that those are metal pieces. All right, so now going back to the final little piece, I'm going back to my underbelly blue, going back to the eye, and just putting almost right in the center, just a dab. So I want this to be the obvious, the glow is coming from here. Now, if I wanted to even go further, I could put white and put it dead center in the middle and be like, all right, there's the super center of this where it's going super white, but you now have 3 levels of glow: the blue, the transition tinted underbelly, and then an actual just straight underbelly. And then I'm going to finish with a little bit of this coal black. That one part that I missed. And there you go. Roughly 3 minutes from base to finish of this watcher. And now, I've got my squad of 4. Mostly. Gotta do the bases still. But you don't want to see me painting black, so subscribe. I'm going to have more videos, hopefully a better camera soon, and I will be doing Kingdom Death Monster. I've got a couple other things lined up. I'm still working on the Fiddler. We'll be doing lots of flesh on that. And yeah, I'm going to be doing more Aetherium stuff too. So once again, thank you for watching, and good luck painting.